And our reporter Jonathan Lea is at Burleigh Waters, where he's back hunkering down as Alfred makes its feelings known once again. Jonathan, we've been speaking to Harry there. Wild weather where he is in Cleveland. We've also heard from our meteorologist earlier that we're still seeing those winds up around 90, even more kilometres per hour across the southeast of Queensland. Take us through what it's like where you are there.
Well, Christy, Burleigh Beach is certainly being hammered at the moment. I think the fast-paced nature of society and the glacial speed at which Alfred as a cyclone and now as a tropical low is moving is what's really frustrating people on the Gold Coast at the moment. They've spent many days waiting for this to hit. The hope was that it would impact the region, dump its rain and then begin to move on. But many people are now appreciating and acclimatising themselves to the reality that they will be without power for not just 24 hours but days and maybe even a week. It's certainly what some of the authorities told people to brace and expect for, and it's being experienced now. Where we are at Burleigh, we've had really no other choice but to find our way back indoors, back up to our unit complex, but we're no better placed than anyone else in many regards. We've got a unit here where there's no power. We're operating on batteries for the cameras, and there's a point in time where if we can't charge those batteries, we simply can't get the message out to people what's happening. So we struggle like many other people, but that's the reality of what we have to deal with in covering a cyclone with modern society and modern equipment. The Premier spoke earlier today about the situation rescue crews and authorities find themselves in. There was more than 150 traffic lights out across the Gold Coast. That situation has now been improved as authorities do what they can to get things back up to speed.
About half of the traffic lights on the Gold Coast remain offline, around half. Around 16% remain offline in Brisbane and 3% on the Sunshine Coast. It's a big task.
We believe we've been really fortunate about the timing of the cyclone crossing, or it hasn't actually crossed yet, but it's stalled just offshore at the moment. But it did reach landfall last night. And of course, we had major riverine flooding at Currumbin and Tallabudgera. And we're just so grateful that it happened at night when people were safely at home, off the roads, and we had no rescues at all.
Yeah, you really get the sense of relief from the authorities there that this crossed last night and did most of its damage then. The reality, though, for those south of the eye of the storm, it might not be a cyclone, but the weather and the impact is still very much being felt. Pummeling wind, pummeling rain, the coastline and the exposed areas are really being hard hit this afternoon and this evening. As we travelled around and tried to inspect the damage from last night and today, what was clear was that it wasn't as bad as many people feared, perhaps some people expected, but there was still a great deal of damage with trees down, and those trees continued to crash throughout the day. It wasn't just last night when things were windy. We actually noticed that some of the trees we thought had been spared were brought down throughout the day, and that perhaps echoes the sentiment and the warnings of authorities who were telling people to take care and steer clear of the dangerous areas, especially when it came to heading out into the surf or being carried away, I suppose, with playing with things like the froth down at Currumbin as well. We spoke to some of the people who endured some of the damage. These are their stories and some of the messages they had to share with us.
When it really started kicking off last night, the gutter from our place has just come screaming down. It's ended up over there and it's pulled all the awnings down here. Mate, the neighbours up next door to us had their full sliding door smashed and everything.
I actually evacuated, so I wasn't here in person, but I've got a friend actually in this building here that sent me some videos. But I texted a few neighbours and all they could hear was vase breaking about 10 o'clock last night, so pretty scary. I'm on the other side, so thankfully my place is okay, but a bit worried about structural damage long term.
Yeah, the Premier talked at length in his press conference today about things like public transport and air travel. It was very clear that public transport would begin to open back up to those in and around Brisbane, maybe a little south or north, but down here on the Gold Coast, residents can expect to go another day. There is talk to open So I find it hard to believe perhaps how Gold Coast Airport might be able to navigate some of the challenges currently being experienced with the gusty winds and also being without power. There has been some good work done with Gold Coast Hospital reconnecting power there. That enables it to effectively come back fully online, which is one of the priorities of the state government at the moment. The authorities have also been at pains to point out that there will be no air gap between the disaster and the recovery. That brought in around 1,200 crews to work as quickly and as expediently as possible to reconnect that power. They have another 800 backup members coming in from the north ready to step into their place to do what they can once the original crews tire. But the great problem will be allowing those crews to work when it is safe. The intention might be to reconnect power, but if the crews can't do it in a safely manner, it can't be done necessarily in a timely manner. So the families who are waiting for power to perhaps help entertain the children, the people who are waiting for power to charge things like batteries like we are, or perhaps the elderly who are waiting for power to be able to do things that they need to do to reconnect with family and tell them that they're safe. All of those things are on hold, and people are looking as best they can to find access to the technology they perhaps would normally and ordinarily have to connect with society, connect with life and connect with families. So still a great deal of work to be done and plenty of hours to go yet.
Yeah, as you mentioned, a lot of work to go, but certainly the danger is not over just yet. You've got the right idea, staying indoors there. Jono, thank you so much for the update.